So here we're going to determine the greatest common factor of the numbers 75 and 125. In order to determine the GCF of numbers, you're going to have to rely on your multiplication and division skills. So let's determine what factors make up 75. The way I like to do it is start with the number 1, and we know that 1 times 75 will equal 75. Now, 2 times something equals 75, or 75 divided by 2. Does it work evenly? No. Therefore, 2 is not a factor. I know that 3 times 25 will give me 75. 4 is not a factor because it will not go into 75 evenly. But I know that 5 times 15 will give me 75. Since I've determined all my factors for 75, I'm going to do the same thing for 125. I know, once again, that 1 times 125 will give me 125. And if all else fails, if your multiplication or division skills aren't quite up to par, you can also use a calculator. So we can say 125 divided by 2 equals, it's not an even number, so therefore I can't use that 2 as a factor. Let's try 3. 125 divided by 3 equals, once again, not an even number. Could move on to 5. 125 divided by 5 equals 25. That's an even number, so therefore we have found our next factor. 5 times 25. So we determined the factors of 125 to be 1, 5, 25, and 125. Now, to determine the greatest common factor, you do what the title states. You're going to look and compare and find the greatest factor that each of these has. And if we look, they each have a 5, but that is not the greatest factor they share. They also share 25. So the greatest common factor of these two numbers is 25. Let's do one more. We'll determine the GCF of 12 and 24. So once again, we'll factor 12. We know that 1 times 12 gives us 12. I know that 2 times 6, and I know that 3 times 4 will give me 12. So those are all the factors of 12. We'll do the same thing for 24. 1 times 24. I know that 2 times 12 gives me 24. I know that 3 times 8 gives me 24. I know that 4 times 6 gives me 24. And those are all the factors of 24. Now we compare to find the greatest factor that they share. And I see there's a 6. They both have a 6. But that is not the greatest one. We have to keep looking, and we see that 12 is the greatest factor that they share that's common between them. So we now know that our greatest common factor between 12 and 24 is 12.